this episode we're going to replace the loader that comes with Quantum, the menu system, so that we can build our own system. And we're going to add in this episode a quick play button, and in the next episode we're going to add a session browser. So as I've already prepared some things to make this video shorter, I've created a main menu UI handler that is attached to our main canvas. The canvas has a canvas scaler that scales with a screen size of 1920 x 1080. And here's the main menu UI handler, which I'll show you in a bit. So each of these panels consists of a panel which is an image, and then we have a drop shadow here on the side, and as well a canvas group. And we have 3 panels right now. So we have the first panel that shows up first, where the player gets to enter the name. We have an OK button, and then we have the main panel that I showed you before, play online, and a room panel. So when you have press quick play, you'll be taken into a room where you can see the members, and you have a start game button. All of the sort of UI assets are Kenny UI, so you can download them from his site. If we start with actually our first player here, I've as well included some bits in the code for the main menu canvas, the main panel and player panel. So let's just hook these up. So main canvas, main panel is not that one, player panel, main panel, and room panel. And then we will need to hook up our input, which is under this vertical layout group, and then the room member list, which is under our room panel. So this one, room member vertical list. And everything here is actually prefabs. So under prefabs, I created a new folder called UI, where I have a button that looks like this, that contains a text, and we have a panel that looks like this, which has a panel, header, background, a text element, which is this top, and vertical layout group, so we can add things here that will, well, show in the sort of vertical order. It has a spacing of 30 as default. What else? The room member name is just something like this. It's where we will spawn in the player's name, and actually I noticed that it's probably the incorrect font, so let's change this one. I've as well separated the outline font from a regular font, so if I drag this in, we will just have this grayish instead, and I think that should be fine. So the setting for the outline is here. So on one of the fonts it's enabled, on the other one is disabled. So let's actually save that. And now we need to hook up our buttons, and I have created functions for those, but they don't really do anything. So let's drag the main canvas in here, which gives us the main menu UI handler, and they now have a stub for stuff like set the name, etc. So let's see where it is. Quick play, player details set clicked. And then on the main panel we have a button for quick play, so let's add that. Main and on quick play clicked, and then in the room we have this start game button, so let's drag in it, and main and on start game click. Okay, and actually background is just something I downloaded from Pixels, so you can get whatever background you want and add that. And as well, the main camera is actually moved under here, UI camera, and I've removed the tag. It doesn't include a main camera, and the whole thing is called main menu. Okay, so now we can actually review the code. So let's open this in Visual Studio. So in the main menu UI handler, I'm using UnityEngine.UI and TM Pro, so we can add change text mesh stuff. And then we have a header with a panel, serialized field, the canvas main menu, and our canvas groups. And then we have another header, player details, a serialized field, the name input field, and the room details. which is a vertical layout group where we will spawn the name of the members. And then we have a start that doesn't do anything, an update that doesn't do anything. We have a hide all panels that just hides these panels that we've added. And then actually I added this region so we can collapse the code to make it more readable, because this will be a quite large file when we're done. And then we have on player details. The only thing it does now is hide all panels and go to main panel. The same thing with on click play, hides the panels and shows the room panel. And then there is nothing more. I've just added stubs for the other things. So that's what we have right now. So instead of using the design pattern that was used by Quantum, which has a lot of separated code, I'm gonna throw everything in the main menu UI handler, which will take care of all the connections to Quantum and everything, because it will make it easier to understand how everything is connected. But maybe when you're doing this on your own, you might want to separate things. But for now, we're just gonna keep it in one large file to handle everything. So the first thing we're going to focus on is actually getting our name from the input and storing that. But before we do that, we're actually going to improve our utils. So I'm going to add a few things that I usually use on all my projects. I replace the debug log with my own public static void debug log with the message. And then I use the normal debug log, but I add a timestamp to it. That way I can tell in what order things are happening, and if one thing is happening multiple times, Unity normally sums that up and just says that yeah, it happened 2 times. Now we will get the chronological order of things instead. And actually, since we're going to add the names, because I'm testing a lot of things all the time, I don't want to bother with having to enter a player name all the time. So I'm just going to add a function, public static string get random name. I've added an array of a bunch of names, and then I will return a random name from this list. So that's the changes I've done. Let's change that and go back into our main menu UI handler. So now it's time to get our player name here. So we want to store this as a variable. So I'm going to add a string player name. And whenever somebody is setting setting their name, we're going to get this on player details change clicked. And in that we are going to store the player's name. And if there isn't a name, then we are going to create a random name. So let's set player name is equal to player name input field dot text. So that is whatever we have in our input field. And when we are actually launching Quantum, we're going to check that we have something in there. If not, we're going to replace it with a random name. And after we've gotten the name, it will hide all the panels. It will show the main panel, which contains this on quick play clicked. So when we are clicking quick play, we want the game to connect to the Photon Cloud server or the master server, and then find a room and join it. So first of all, we need to make the connection to the master server. So let's go and find our code for it. Region multiplayer connect and join code. So this is where we'll add it. And it will be a bool connect to master. And we will return true when we are done. And the first thing that we need to do is grab the settings. So var app settings is equal to Photon server settings dot clone app settings, add a Photon server settings instance app settings. That will get a copy of our app settings. And then we need to create our client. So the client will be a new Quantum load balancing client, and it's a Photon server setting instance app setting dot protocol. And of course we need to assign a variable for our client, because well, it needs to be handled on a higher level. All right, so Quantum load balancing client as client. So client equals, we created that, so that's all good. And once we have done that, we need to say that okay, we want some connection callbacks. So let's add client add callback target this, and then we need to check some things like did we provide app ID real time or not. So if we didn't, it will give us an error in the error logs and it will return false. But if we did provide some app ID, we will continue. So here we need to check if our name is provided or not. So if our player name is equal to, well, nothing, then we will get a random name and assign that as player name. And after that, we can start to try to connect Photon Cloud or the master server. If that fails, then we want to write it to our debug log. So we're going to do utils.debug log, write it to our debug log here, and then return false. So if we reach this point, it means that we are successful, and we can write that to our debug log. So let's add that. And actually, it's not true that we have connected yet. We are trying to connect. The only thing that has happened is that we have successfully issued the command to connect. We actually don't know about the result yet. Then we need to make sure that we have the proper callbacks, and let's add those. So iConnection callbacks, and it will show an error here saying that okay, something is wrong, and let's hit show potential fixes. First is using Photon real-time, so yeah, that's something we need to add. And then there's another error with that we haven't implemented the interface members, so hit show potential fixes, and let's just implement those. So at the bottom here we have unconnected, so it just threw them in there. So actually I don't want them there. Connection events, they should have been in here. So now we have those, and it will throw this error, and we actually want to write something instead whenever this happens so that we know that it has happened. So let's change all of this throw with our debug log instead. So I'm just gonna quickly do that, and I'll get back in a second. All right, so there we go. So on connect, I'm writing out on connect user ID. On connector master, I'm just writing out connector master and the client region. On disconnect, I'm writing out that with the cause, and then the others I'm just writing it to the debug log. Okay, so let's see if we can actually call this connector master. And for now, we're just gonna hijack our UI button. So let's take our quick play here. Let's just hook that up and hit connector master whenever we're clicking it. And now we can actually try it and see what happens in Unity. So let's start the game. And just hit OK, and then quick play. And if we look at our console, we can see, okay, attempting to connect to region EU, and then nothing happened. So let's exit play mode and have a look at our script again. So the reason why this doesn't work is because actually we need to process these events as well. So in the update function, we need to add client $.service. So client checks if it's null, and if it's not, it's going to execute this service. So let's do that and save and try it again in Unity. So let's hit quick play and look at our console. So now we have attempting to connect and unconnected user ID, which is a user ID, and then connected to master server in region EU. Well, Perfect. So now we have established a connection to the master server, and that's what we need to do first. From the master server, we can actually access things like lobbies and browse whichever sessions there are and join rooms. So now we're going to add the ability to actually auto join a room. So it's going to auto try to find an existing random room, and if it doesn't find one, it's just going to create a new one. So let's stop and go back into our code again. And we will change the behavior a little bit. So we are going to determine what mode we're in. If we are in quick play, auto join enabled, this is a feature that we're going to use just for quick play. And when we are hitting quick play, we are going to say that this is true. And if we are hitting our session browser, then it's going to be false. So the session browser will focus on that in another episode, but right now let's focus on our quick play. So our quick play, I can imagine in the future that it will be sort of called in different places. So it might be that, as an example, we have found a room, and the user for some reason didn't actually like that the players in the room, so they are backing out, and they are deciding that, okay, I don't want to play with this guy, so I want to play with somebody else. And that means that they are actually going to be connected to the master already. So before we are issuing this connect to master, we are going to check if we need to do it. And what we're going to check is that, okay, we are going to check if the client is not null and the client is connected, then it means that we don't need to make a connection again. Otherwise, we are going to connect to master. And what we will do here is we will issue our code directly for joining a random or creating a random room. So let's create a function for that. So under our connect to master, which is this part, and region UI code, yeah. So let's add it here. Join random or create room. So let's actually add those as well, where we are supposed to launch them. Connect to master. So on the first instance, we can just call this join or create room because we are connected, but we can't issue it directly here because first of all we need to wait for the connection to be done. So once the connection has been done, we're going to get an on connected to master, and once that is done, we can issue our join random or create room command. Here we are. So when we are sort of joining our random room and it's going to well, eventually when we're hitting the start game button, it's going to load the actual scene that we're going to be in. And apparently it can take some time on some devices, which could cause things to time out, and the game would essentially drop the player. There is a way to avoid that, and it's something called connection handler. So let's add our above panels here. Header connection handler, serialized field, and it's a connection handler that we're taking in, calling it connection handler. So first of all, when we are joining a room, let's set this connection handler so that we are aware that it's existing. So let's do that. Prevent disconnects during long scene loads. Connection handler. The client of the connection handler needs to be set, and it's our client. And after that, we can say that, okay, we are ready for this start, fallback, send ACK thread, which will keep things alive. But we need to add this component as well. So we'll do that in the scene after a while. Then when we have joined our room, we need to figure out, okay, which map is the room going to use. So right now we are only have one map, I think, at least. So we need a variable to store that, as well as we did with the player name. So we're going to have a long variable map GUID, and we'll put it to well, 0 as a start. And in our function where we have it, I'm going past it all the time. Where are we? Here. So the first thing we need to do is figure out which rooms we have, right? So our room, we are going to fetch all of them. So let's do that. So pick the first map that we can find. And how we will do that is we're going to do a var all maps in resources, and then do unit engine resource load all map assets quantum editor settings instance database path in resources. So that will load everything. And why I have unit engine here is we're going to add some other things that is going to collide with the namespaces. So to make sure that that doesn't happen, let's just add unit engine there. Okay, so after we've done that, we've loaded all of our maps. We're just going to pick the first one. So all maps in resources, pick the first one, assets, object, GUID, and value. That will be well, the long value of our GUID. So let's store that as map GUID. And then let's actually write that into our utils debug log, so we know what map we're using. And let's add a message for that. So using map long GUID, and then we'll put in the long GUID here, and the GUID, which is actually the readable GUID. And this is what we can, if we look at the asset, this is the number that we're going to see in the inspector when we're looking at it, and not that value. So now we've written that down, and then we need to create some room parameters or properties. So let's create some parameters for it, and it's going to be enter room params, and we're just going to say that it's going to be enter room params here. And this is something that we will do a few times. So or a few times we will do it for joining a random room. We will also do it when we are have the server browser or session browser where we want to join a specific room. So instead of writing all of this twice, I'm going to just add a function for it. So let's add that before. And enter room params, create, it returns an enter room params. The function is create enter room params, and it takes in a room name. So the first thing we need to do is create the enter room params. So let's make a new enter room params, and after that we can actually create a few things. We need room options, so we need to create that as well. Room options is equal to new room options, and after that we can set our room name. In our enter params room name is going to be room. And after that we need to decide, okay, is this room going to be visible or not? So enter params room options is visible, true. We want others to be able to find it. And then we need to set some max players. How many players are we going to allow in this room? And max player 0 means that it's has no limit. Then we need to explain what's our plugin that we're going to use, and we are going to use the Quantum plugin. We don't have a custom one. And after that we have some custom properties that we want to set, and we are going to do room options custom room properties is equal to new exit game client Photon hash table. So this hash table is something where we can add custom things, whatever we want in our room really, but we want others to maybe see in the future which map do we have. So we're adding our map grid so that when we're listing rooms we can see that okay, this is the map that is used for this specific room. And we can provide matchmaking properties here, like what difficulty do we have, is this going to be a specific game mode, or anything really that describes the room. So for now we're going to be happy with that. And then we are going to add some other options, like enter room options, player TTL. So it's how long the actor will be sort of staying alive until it will be automatically removed when we're disconnecting, I guess. And the same for empty room. So how long is the empty room going to last when all player leaves? So it's gonna be this time. Those are just values that I took from the quantum examples, so you can fiddle around. I'm not sure what the maximum values are, but well, those works at least. Okay, so then when we have done all of this, we can return our empty room params. So now we can actually create our room here. And I'm gonna just send in a blank room name. So if I provide a blank room name, it means that Photon will create a random name for me. And right now I don't really care what the rooms are called, so I'm just gonna have them as that, but you could have some description like Fred's room or whatever, which makes more sense maybe for private rooms, but for now I'm just happy with getting any room. Okay, so soon we can start with issuing the command, but first we need to create some more parameters. So an op join random room params is what we're going to create, and let's make a new join random room params. And after we have done that, we can actually call the command. So let's do that. So we're checking again if the client failed with the call op join random or create room, and fetch in or feed in our join random params and our enter room params in there. So if it fails, we are just going to say that okay, unable to join random room or create room, and then we are going to return. And if we are successful, then let's write to the debug log joining random room or creating new room, and we are just issuing the command, so we only know that we are joining the room, not that we have joined the room. So after this, if we would call this now, we wouldn't actually get any results because we're not we haven't added the callbacks for this. So we need to add that, and the callbacks for this is in matchmaking callbacks. So in the matchmaking callbacks we can see that okay, we have on room created, etc. So let's just fix those errors and show potential fixes, implement interface, and then they are added. So again, let's see where they popped up. So they are here, and let's just move them into our room region, room events. And then let's do the same thing as before. I'm gonna populate this with just some debug information, so I'll be right back. So there we go. Now I have on friend list updated and writing the debug log on friend list updated, and the same for everything else except for the failed ones, where I'm actually adding a return code and a message so we can see what actually went wrong. And then on left room, we're just writing on left room. Okay, so now we have our events set up, and now we can actually try it and see what happens in Unity. Okay, before we take our code for a spin, we need to assign the connection handler. So we need to create a new game object for that. So create empty reset the position, and add component connection handler, and keep the defaults as they are, and rename the object to connection handler, and then assign it there and save. Now we can try our code and see how it works. Alright, so hit OK, and let's look at the console, quick play, and now we can see that, okay, joining a random room or creating new room on joined room. Yay! So it worked. And the start button doesn't actually, the start game button doesn't do anything yet. So let's fix that so that we can actually start the game. So let's hit stop and open our main menu UI handler again in Visual Studio. And after our join create room, we are going to add a new function to actually start a game. So we'll do a void start game, and this will issue a command like before. So we are going to do if client op raise event, and this will create an event on all the clients saying that, okay, we are going to start the game now. And the event, we need to provide some code for it, or a specific code. If you look at it expects a byte event code here. So we need to create some way of handling the different codes that can occur. And what we want to do is create an enum for this. So after our client here, we are going to create an enum for that start game event code. So create an enum called Photon event code, which is a byte, and it should have start game 110, because that is what it says in the examples provided by Photon. There are more event codes, and I'll try to dig them out, but right now I've found a few, but not all of them. So for now, let's just leave it as start game 110. Okay, so next part is that custom event content. So let's put null there because we don't have any. And then comes the raise event options. So we need to specify how we're going to raise this. So let's make a new raise event options. And then in it, we need to provide, okay, what are we going to do here? So we want to make sure that everyone receives this. So receivers is going to be receive group all, and send option is going to be send reliable, and that should be enclosed. And then we have some problem that it doesn't exist, send option does not exist in the current context. So it's because we need to use exit games client Photon. So let's add that as using, and then the code should work. And however, there is some problem here. Oh yeah, that needs to go. So new raise event options, receiver group all, end of angel brackets, and then a comma, send options, send reliable. And if we are failing with this, again, let's just write it to our debug log so that we know that we have failed, unable to start game. And if we are successful, then we are going to write starting game. So now we need to find our UI event, and on start game clicked, let's call start game. So again, as before, if we would run this now, nothing would really happen, because we need to have our callbacks for it. And these callbacks is located in on event callback. And as before, show fixes, implement members, figure out where the code was added on event. There we go. put it inside our Photon events, and then we'll add the code for that. So whenever we receive an on event, let's add it to our debug log so we can see that we received something. Photon event received code, and then the code of that. And then we need to figure out, okay, what event did we receive? So let's do a switch statement, and we'll do switch Photon event and the code, and then we will write a case for it so we can handle it. Case byte Photon event code start game, and then a break so the error disappears. And what we want to check in this case is when we are receiving the start event, we want to get some custom properties here. So we'll do a client, current room, custom properties, try get, map GUID, and out is the map GUID value. So that way we know which map is going to be launched. And if we still haven't received anything, so if that value is null, then it means that something went very wrong. And in that case, let's write to our debug log, failed to get map GUID disconnecting, and then we'll do a client disconnect. And actually, let's return as well, so that we're stopping the processing. But if we are green and everything is okay, we have the map, then let's check if we are the master client. So we'll check if we are client, local player is master client. And if we are the master client, then we want to provide some information for late joiners. So we could, for instance, add a state to this, and that okay, the room has started or whatever. This is something that we can add here. For now, I'm not gonna do that, but you would do it in the same way as the other map GUID. Just add a state saying that okay, room has started or something like that. But for now, we are just gonna leave it, but we are going to say that okay, the room, once we have started, we could set it to not being visible, or even that okay, the room is closed, because we don't have any code right now to handle late joiners. So we are just gonna shut the room down and not make it visible for anybody else. Okay, so once we have done that, we actually need to start the Quantum game. So we need to provide some code for that. And let's go up and find our code again. So join random, create room, start game, void start Quantum game. And then let's make sure that we actually call it when we receive our event here. So this will be called on all the clients, and it will fire up Quantum. So the first thing we need to do is check if there is already a Quantum runner. So if it's not null, it means that we have another Quantum running and that's not allowed. So let's add to our debug warning another Quantum runner has prevented starting the game, and then we'll return. But if that's not the case, then we can go ahead and we'll need to get our runtime config. So runtime config, new runtime config, and we have an error, show potential fixes, use Photon deterministic protocol. And our runtime config, we need to provide which map we are going to run. So runtime config.map.id. So then we have this squiggly error saying that okay, the definition for map is not accessible, and here's the interesting part. So we added using Photon deterministic protocol, which was suggested by IntelliSense, but it's actually not correct. So if we use instead Quantum, then it will solve the first problem and the second problem with the map. So let's use Quantum instead of that. Okay, now we can continue with our code to start up Quantum. So after we have assigned our map, then it's time to create some quantum parameters. So let's do a var param new quantum runner start parameters. And then we need to supply some parameters. And first thing is that we need our runtime config. So let's add that. Second is that we need to have a deterministic config. So deterministic config is equal to deterministic session config asset instance config. Then we need to supply, okay, what game mode are we going to be in? So we are going to be in Photon deterministic game mode multiplayer, but we can also have, for instance, replay, spectating, etc. But leave it at multiplayer. Then we need to supply, okay, frame data. Do we have any frame data? And we don't, because we are starting, we're joining a new game, so no frame data. And the initial frame is 0 because we're joining a new game. Then we have our player count. How many players are we going to allow in this? And it's going to be the client current room max players. That's how many we can allow. And then we have local player count is going to be 1, where we will have 1 local player per client. And then we need to specify, are we going to record? And no, we're not going to record. And after that, we need to say, okay, which is our network client? Well, it's our client that we have here. And then we have our start game timeout in seconds. So how long do we allow for it to start? Or if it doesn't start, what's the timeout? Okay. So perfect. After we've done that, we need to create a client ID. So let's do a var client ID, and client ID provider, create client ID, client type Photon user ID. So we're going to use the Photon user ID for this, and let's show potential fixes. Use quantum demo client ID provider. Actually, quantum demo maybe was the correct one. Yeah, quantum demo was the correct one. Sorry about that. So we can actually, yeah, it did replace it. So using quantum demo. Okay. So let's clean it up a little bit. There we go. So now we have a client ID, which we will need when we are launching things. And let's write to our debug log, starting quantum runner with client ID, provide a client ID, and map with a map grid, and local player count. How many local players do we have? And after this, we can hide our main menu canvas, and that will also hide our camera, which is a child of our main menu canvas. And then we can use start game. Quantum runner start game with the client ID and the parameters. And the reason why we have put our camera inside our canvas here is going to be apparent when we try it. So let's try it in Unity. So if we try it now, we should be able to join a room and join or start a game. So let's hit OK, quick play, wait for it to finish, and then start game. And now the Photon game is running. And the reason why we put our camera under our main canvas here is because the scene is loading additive. So it means that it's keeping the scene that we came from and then loading our game. And well, we're receiving a lot of events here, but that's okay. So our game is loaded here, but if we would have put our camera outside our main class, it would mean that it would look like this, and we would all of a sudden have 2 cameras, and well, there would be a lot of warnings. So the easy fix for this is just put it on there and have it disabled. So now we have one problem in this game, and it's I can't play it. No local player was actually spawned. And the reason why no local player was spawned was because one part on the Photon side is missing. And it's because if we look at our menu example here from the Photon Quantum example, we have this quantum callbacks. And if we have a look at, or actually just let's copy that script and or the whole component here with the script and bring it into our scene. So main menu. So if we copy that one and we try it now, then it will work. So quick play, start game, and yeah, so here we go. Now we can control our own character. And if we look at the script, what does it contain? Well, the custom callback is going to public override void on game start, and it is going to do a for each loop on the local players, and then it's going to feed in send player data. So without this, we are not going to get the on data event on the quantum side, which means that we are not going to instantiate any players or any local players, and we're not going to hook them up with the local player. So this is the reason why it's not actually spawning the players. But with this custom callback, we are good. So let's keep that in our code. So now that this is working, let's improve our room a little bit so we can see which players are already in our room, or when a player is joining, let's show them. So let's go into our UI code here, and let's create a new function, update room details. And the update room details, we want to first of all check, okay, are we in a room? So is the client in a room? If it's not in a room, there's no point in trying to update our list of members. So we are writing to the debug log that we are no longer in a room, and we cannot update room details, and then we'll return. And after that, if we are successful, we are in a room. We want to collect our members in the room. So we want to loop through our the members in a room, and how we do that is we're gonna loop through our current players, client current room players, and that is a dictionary. So this is a way of looping through the dictionary for each key value pair, integer and player, and call it player. So that will make sure that we have in players, we have a value here, and in the value we have the actor number and the nickname of the player. So that's cool. And what we want to do is, when we have received this, we want to instantiate a new text that we are attaching in our vertical layout group, which makes sure that the names are going to be, well, falling down in the UI, sort of, well, be based in the vertical. So we need to create a variable for this, a prefab that we can get here. So after our room members list layout group, let's add a serialized field, game object, and room members name prefab. So if we go back into our code again, then in our for each loop, we want to instantiate this. So let's instantiate room members name prefab, and we will make sure that it becomes a child directly of our room members list layout group and the transform. So then it's added directly under it. And then we want to set the name of our player. So let's take our instantiated objects, get component, text mesh pro UI, and change the text to the player's nickname. And then we are done. So this, if we run this, it would only update once, and then it wouldn't update any more. And we need to make sure that this is called periodically. But if we call this periodically, it means that we are going to just keep on filling our vertical layout group here. So we need to figure out a way of actually removing things from it. So let's add a function for it to clear room members list. And we are actually going to do it if we have our error here. So if there's an error, or if we're not in a room, then we're going to clear the room list. And if we are as well, if we have done the loop and we're starting a new loop, then we're going to clear it to make sure that there are no old members. And we're going to do it in reversed order. So starting from the last object to the first object. So we're going to do a for int I is equal to room member list transform child count -1. So we are getting all the children -1. And then we're checking if our I variable is larger than 0 or equal than 0. So while this is true, we are going to decrease the I by -1. So that will loop everything from reverse to make sure that we don't have any type of errors. And then we are going to destroy our room member list layout group, transform get the child from the I value and the game object. So that will destroy it from the reversed order. I think you can do it actually in forward order, but let's do it in reversed order to make sure that nothing breaks. So now we are clearing it, and that's all good, but we also need some way of calling this multiple times. So let's do an I enumerator update room details CO, which is coroutine, or my way of indicating that it is a coroutine. And while our room panel game object is active in hierarchy, it means that it's visible, then we are going to run this. And we are going to call our update room details here. And then we need to specify how often are we going to do this. And I'm going to do it once every second. And we are going to start our update room details when we have received our on joined room here. So start coroutine. Okay, so that should run, and if we are leaving the room, we can actually stop this. But for now, let's just leave it as is, and we can take care of error handling at a later point. So let's save that and try it in Unity. So in our main canvas, we need to supply our room members prefab, and I've created a prefab for that already, and it's just text mesh pro. So let's add that, and now we're going to try it with a few clients. So I'm going to compile this and take it for a spin. So 4 clients, let's just hit OK, quick play on the first one, and we can see okay, Hedy has joined here, quick play, and this one is called Medi, obviously. So we have Hedy and Medi in the room, and let's do a quick play on this one. Teddy, Hedy, Medi, and quick play, and so now we have our 4 members here. Well, this one was called Teddy as well. Let's leave with that one. So now we have our Teddys, and yeah, leaving works, and that updates the list. And if we hit start game on any of the clients, it should start the Photon game. I'd like to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters. It helps us with every single contribution that we can get. So please consider supporting us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.